I'm Caleb Reeves, 30 male. I live in Atlanta where I work as a vintage machinery restoration engineer. My job is breathing life back into classic cars, machines that are more like rolling history than just steel and iron. My wife Mira is an accountant and we have a small, cozy apartment. My life was, okay, it wasn't perfect, but it was mine. But that all changed with a single phone call that shattered my world and exposed a truth I never saw coming. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. I grew up in Savannah in an old house by the river. My father, Weston Reeves, was a master mechanic, a man respected by the whole town. My mother, Evelyn, was a retired teacher, always gentle but easily swayed. And then there was my younger brother, Dylan. He's always been cunning, smug, and an expert at dodging responsibility. I loved my family, but it was complicated. That morning I was at the workshop, my hands deep in the carburetor of an old Mustang when my phone buzzed. It was Mom. She rarely called during work hours. Her voice was trembling, almost incoherent. "Caleb, can you come home right away? Your father, he's gone." The world stopped. "Mom, what did you say?" "He had a stroke in the garage," she sobbed. "He was polishing the Aston Martin when he collapsed. The doctor said he went quickly." I don't remember the drive to Savannah. The highway was a blur, my mind completely empty. My father, Weston Reeves, 68 years old, as sturdy as an oak, was gone. The funeral was held in a small church. The air was heavy with the scent of incense, old wood, and the damp mist from the river. Mom sat in the front row, clutching a tear-soaked handkerchief. Dylan showed up in a sharp black suit, his hair perfect. He nodded to people, but his eyes avoided mine. Family and friends shared stories about the legendary Savannah mechanic. They talked about his passion, his integrity, and his greatest pride, the 1969 Aston Martin DB6. It was a car he'd refused to sell, even when someone offered $6 million for it. I stood before his casket, looking at his peaceful face. I couldn't speak. I just placed my hand on his chest, making a silent promise to preserve everything he'd left behind. I had no idea how hard that promise would be to keep. 2 weeks after the funeral, the family lawyer, Mr. Mitchell, came to read the will. We all sat around the old dining table, Mom, Dylan, Mira, and me. Mira held my hand under the table, but I could feel the tension in her fingers. Mr. Mitchell's voice was steady. "Weston Reeves left a very clear will. The house and all savings go to Evelyn Reeves. The pocket watch is left to Dylan Reeves. And the 1969 Aston Martin DB6 will go to Caleb Reeves." The room fell silent. My heart pounded. The Aston Martin, Dad's pride and joy. I hadn't expected it. A mix of pride and heavy responsibility washed over me. I looked at Mom, but she just bowed her head. Dylan broke the silence. His chair scraped loudly as he shot to his feet. "What? A watch? Dad left me an old watch while Caleb gets a car worth millions. Was he that biased?" "Dylan, sit down," Mom said, her voice trembling. "Your father had his reasons." "Reasons?" Dylan shouted, his eyes bloodshot. "I'm his son too. That car should be split." I'd known for years that Dylan was selfish, living off loans and empty promises, but this was a new low. "Dylan, enough," I said, my voice firm. "Dad left what he wanted. We have to respect that." "Respect?" he sneered, pointing at me. "You're always the good son, aren't you? Always Dad's favorite. And what do I get? A worthless keepsake." Mira squeezed my hand, urging me to stay calm. But then I caught Mom's look. She glanced at Dylan, then at me with a flicker of hesitation. "Caleb," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Maybe you should consider selling the car, share some with Dylan, he's your brother." Her words cut me deeper than Dylan's anger. "Mom, that car is Dad's legacy. He trusted me to keep it." "But Dylan's your brother," she repeated, almost pleading. "Family shares Caleb's." I couldn't respond. I just stood up and left the room. A crack had just formed in the foundation of my family, and I felt a cold dread begin to take root. When I returned to Atlanta, I buried myself in work. The clank of metal and the smell of engine oil were my only escape from the images of Dylan's angry face and my mother's pleading eyes. But Mira was different. The change was subtle at first. She started coming home later, blaming overtime. A new, sweet perfume I didn't recognize clung to her clothes. Her phone, once left casually on the counter, was now always locked. When I asked, she just laughed it off as a new company policy for data security. I tried to believe her. I told myself it was just my own stress. But every time I looked into her warm brown eyes, I saw a distance I couldn't name. Caleb, are you okay? She asked one evening, finding me staring at an old family photo. It was from a picnic, Dad's hand on my shoulder while Dylan grimaced at the camera. I'm fine, I lied, just miss Dad. She sat beside me, placing a hand on my knee. We'll get through this, Caleb. I wanted to believe her, but something in her eyes, a flicker of avoidance, kept me on edge. 3 months after Dad's death, everything fell apart. I came home from a long day, planning to make dinner and finally talk with Mira to bridge the gap that had been growing between us. The apartment was silent. Her coat was gone from the hook. Her favorite shoes were missing. Mira, I called out, my voice echoing. I rushed to the bedroom. Half her wardrobe was empty. A sinking feeling hit me, and I sprinted to the garage out back where I kept Dad's legacy. The garage door was wide open. The cold, empty space stared back at me. The Aston Martin was gone. I stood frozen, the ground collapsing beneath me. Back in the kitchen, I found a note on the counter in her handwriting. I'm sorry, I need to be away for a while. I called her phone again and again. Nothing. I sank to the floor, crumpling the note in my hand. My entire world had just disintegrated. I drove to Savannah in a daze. I needed to talk to Mom. Despite the pain from the will reading, she was all I had left. She opened the door, her eyes tired and her face weary. Caleb, what are you doing here so late? I told her everything, Mira, the car, the note, my voice trembled. Mom, I don't understand, why would she do this? Mom sat down, her hands clasped, avoiding my eyes. Maybe Mira just needs time to think, son, don't be so quick to blame her. I couldn't believe my ears. Time? She took Dad's car and vanished, and you say she needs time. She lowered her face, her fingers fidgeting with her wedding ring. Then her voice slipped out, almost a whisper. Maybe, Dylan was wrong to let things go this far. I froze. What did you say? She flinched, her eyes widening. I didn't mean that, it's not what you think. Not what I think, my heart tightened. Are you saying Mira and Dylan's? Mom didn't answer, she just bowed her head. How long have you known? I demanded. I thought it was just a passing thing, she confessed, tears streaming down her face. Dylan said it was a moment of weakness. I was afraid telling you would hurt you more. So you hid it, I stared at her, betrayed all over again. Caleb, don't be like that, she sobbed. Dylan was wrong, but he's still your brother, you can't turn your back on family. I let out a bitter laugh. Family? You call this family? Dylan betrayed me, stole my wife, and you still take his side. I left her house not looking back. The most painful part wasn't the loss. It was knowing the people I trusted most had chosen to stay silent. As I drove, I replayed my childhood, Dad strict but fair, teaching me about honor. And Mom always shielding Dylan, coddling him, making excuses for him. When he stole money from her purse, she hugged him. When he was expelled, she blamed the teachers. Her blind love hadn't just sheltered him, it had enabled him. And now, it had helped him destroy my life. A week passed, I was a ghost in my own apartment. I tried to work, but every time I saw the empty space in the garage, the void in my chest ached. Then my phone rang, an unknown numbers. Is this Caleb Reeves? A gravelly voice asked. I'm Grayson, owner of Grayson's Classics Garage. I've got your father's Aston Martin DB6. We need to talk. The wrench I was holding clattered to the floor. How do you have it? Calm down, son, he said. Come to my garage, I'll explain. Grayson's garage was filled with gleaming vintage cars. An older man with silver hair stepped out from behind a Rolls-Royce. Caleb, I'm Grayson. Where's the car? I asked, my voice tight. He led me to a corner. Under a white cloth was the familiar shape. When he pulled it back, my breath caught. It was Dad's. I put my hand on the cool metal, feeling like I could breathe for the first time in a week. Your father and I were close friends, Grayson explained. We opened a garage together 40 years ago. Weston was a man of honor. He saved me from bankruptcy once. Just a handshake I owe him. How did it get here? A young woman brought it in, he said, his eyes stern. Said her name was Mira, claimed she was authorized to sell it. I recognized it as Weston's. She wanted $3 million, but I didn't buy her story. I told her I needed to verify its origins. My blood ran cold. She's my wife, she left, took the car, and vanished. Grayson clapped a hand on my shoulder. I'm repaying my debt to your father. Take it home, Caleb. This car belongs to you. I won't take a dime. That night, driving the Aston in Martin home, I felt Dad's presence. Back in my garage, I began cleaning the car, inspecting every detail. In the rear storage compartment, my hand brushed a slight bulge under the lining. I found a hidden folder sealed in a nylon bag, labeled with Dad's familiar handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were photos, forged emails, and bank records, all bearing Dylan's name. It was a file of his entire life as a con artist preying on wealthy women. Tucked inside was a letter from Dad. Caleb, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I've known about Dylan's actions. I hoped he'd change. I was wrong. This is the evidence. I'm leaving it to you because I trust you'll know what to do. Do the right thing, Caleb. Tears blurred the ink. Dad had known. He'd left this burden for me, and now I knew what I had to do. A few days later, there was an urgent knock. Mira stood on my doorstep, drenched and pale, her eyes swollen. Caleb, she whispered, I'm so sorry. I was deceived. Dylan, he took everything. I stood aside, my anger replaced by a cold exhaustion. She sat on the sofa, trembling, and told me everything. Dylan's promise of a new life, the investment he had her make with the car money. He had scammed her out of the entire $1.5 million she got from the sale, a sale Grayson had thankfully blocked, and then he vanished. She'd lost her job, her friends, everything. Caleb, please, she sobbed, clutching at my legs. I have nothing left, I need you. I had loved this woman, but that love was dead. I forgive you, Mira, I said, my voice firm, but we can't go back, you made your choice. Gently, I pried her hands away. Go, I can't help you, she left without another word. The next morning, I took the Aston Martin to Mr. Mitchell's office, the folder in my briefcase. You sure about this, Caleb? He asked. This is the final step. I'm sure, I said. This isn't personal, it's about right and wrong. He reviewed the documents. This is enough to press criminal charges. He could face years for fraud. We went to the police station. I sat across from an officer and handed over the folder. Yes, sir, I confirmed, my throat tight. He's my brother, Dylan Reeves. Hours later, my phone buzzed. It was Mom, her voice a frantic scream. Caleb, what are you doing? You reported Dylan to the police. How could you do this to your brother? Mom, he's been scamming people, not just me. I can't let him keep doing it. You're destroying this family, she shrieked. You're supposed to protect him. Mom, if I cover for him, I'd betray myself, I said, the words heavy with pain. I'd betray Dad, I'm sorry. I hung up, sinking onto the sofa. I knew she'd never accept the truth. In her eyes, I had just condemned her baby. But I had finally done what Dad couldn't. The police moved fast. They found Dylan in a cheap motel in Florida trying to flee. The evidence was overwhelming. Mira was just one of many victims. Dylan's trial was quick. I sat in the back row watching him in an orange jumpsuit. He looked small, all his smugness gone. He never looked at me. The judge sentenced him to 7 years in prison. I felt no joy, only a deep, hollow emptiness. A few weeks later, a letter arrived from Chatham County Correctional Facility. It was from Dylan. Caleb, it read, Mom came to see me. All I could think about was how you put me here. You were always the one Dad trusted, the one who got his love. You call it justice. I call it betrayal. Maybe one day I'll understand, but not today. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer with an old photo of us as kids. A month later, I visited Dad's grave. The inscription read, Weston Reeves, a mechanic of honor. I placed flowers on the cold stone. Dad, I whispered, I did everything the way you would have. I hope you're proud. I had lost my brother, my wife, and for a time my mother, but I had to do what was right. In the months that followed, Mom and I slowly began to mend things. She visited me, bringing cookies. We talked for the first time without secrets. I'm sorry, Caleb, she said softly. I was wrong to always defend him. I took her hand. He has to face this himself, Mom. My life found a new rhythm, the workshop, the old machines, and the Aston Martin. It wasn't just a car anymore, it was a reminder to live with honor. Mom and I even visited Dylan. He was quiet, but once he asked about the car. Still running well? He whispered. Runs great, I replied. Dad took good care of it. I saw a flicker of something in his eyes, maybe regret. I hope, in those 7 years, he finds the path Dad always wanted for him. Sometimes I sit in the garage, the moonlight on the car, and I know I made the right choice. Justice isn't about revenge. It's about looking in the mirror without shame. I lost so much, but I didn't lose myself. And that, I've learned, is what matters most.